Okay, in this video we're going to look at how to do a confidence interval when we have two proportions. Now for this we're actually going to be looking at an interval that describes the difference between the two proportions. So our point estimate is actually the difference between the two sample proportions. So we're going to take the sample proportion of the first group minus the sample proportion of the second group. That difference is our point estimate. Then we have plus or minus our z alpha over 2, and then times this lovely standard deviation formula that I am not expecting you to do by hand. We, again, are going to let Excel do all of this work for us. It is mainly the interpretation that I am going to be looking at to see if you understand. So suppose the Cartoon Network conducts a nationwide survey to assess viewer attitudes towards Superman. They conduct a simple random sample of 400 boys and found that 30% of them said Superman is their favorite character. They also took a simple random sample of 300 girls and found that 20% of them say Superman is their favorite character. Construct a 90% confidence interval for the difference in attitudes towards Superman. So we want to look at the difference in the proportions of boys to girls that chose Superman as their favorite character. So let's see, we looked at 400 boys and 30% picked Superman as their favorite. 300 girls, 20% picked Superman as their favorite. And we want to do a 90% confidence interval for the difference in these proportions. So I have 400, 30%, 300, 20%, and 90%. So 400 is the number of boys that they surveyed. So I'm going to call that N1. And then 30% of those boys picked Superman as their favorite character. So 30%, remember, a proportion is a fancy word for a percentage. So this is not the number of boys that picked Superman. This is the proportion of boys that picked Superman. So this is my P hat 1. This is the proportion of the first group that picked Superman. 300 is the number of girls that they surveyed. And then 20% is the proportion from that group that picked Superman. So that's P hat 2. And then finally, 90% is the confidence interval that we're being asked to do. So that's our confidence level, or our C level for short. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rewrite all of these percentages as decimals, because I'm going to need to do that anyways. And then another thing we're going to need in order to use the Excel spreadsheet, I don't have P1 hat, P2 hat in the spreadsheet. I need to find X1 and X2. I need to know how many boys picked Superman and how many girls picked Superman. And then X2 would be how many girls picked Superman. So to do that, to find x2, I'm going to take, x1. Let's start with x1. Don't know why I did x2. x1, I'm going to take the number of boys that I surveyed times the proportion that picked Superman. So 400 times 0.3 gives me 120. So 120 boys picked Superman as their favorite. I need that number in order to use the Excel spreadsheet. X2 is going to be 300 times 0.2, which is 60. 60 girls picked Superman as their favorite. So now at this point, I'm going to go to the Excel spreadsheet and I'll pull it up here in a second, and we're going to plug in x1, n1, x2, n2, and our confidence level. So here is our Excel spreadsheet. Oops, that's not where I want to put it. Hang on. That's where I want to put it. So here is the 2 sample interval for proportions. So x1 is 120, n1 is 400, x2 is 60, n2 is 300, and our confidence level was 90%, so that's 0.9. So then we have our upper bound and lower bounds. 0.0465, that's our lower bound, and 0.1535, that's our upper bound. This is another way to write the upper and lower bounds, is to just put them in a set of parentheses. So now, what does this mean? This is what the interval gives us. What does it mean? Well, literally, it means we are 90% confident that the difference in the proportions of boys to girls that pick Superman as their favorite is between 4.65% and 15.35%. But that still doesn't really tell me anything. I'm still looking at that like, yeah, I don't understand. So remember, we start this with a point estimate that's found by looking at the difference between P1 hat and P2 hat. So in our example, the 1s represented the boys, the 2s represented the girls. Both of these numbers are positive. So if I subtract 2 numbers and I get a positive number, then that means that the first number was bigger. So because both of these numbers are bigger, I can infer that boys will pick Superman more than girls. Because the percentage, when I look at the difference, is positive. And I found this difference by doing boys minus girls. If both of these numbers were negative, then that would indicate that girls prefer Superman more. Girls would pick Superman more than boys because both numbers were negative, and you get a negative number if the first number is smaller than the second number. If the first number was negative and the second number was positive, then that means that 0 is in the interval. We would have something like this. Negative 0.0465, comma, something like this. 1 is negative, 1 is positive. 0 is in the interval. That means there is a chance that the two are equal, that the boys and girls would pick Superman at equal proportions. So if both of the numbers in your confidence interval are positive, then that means the first group, whatever your ones were, those are higher. If they're both negative, that means the second group is higher. If one is negative, one is positive, that means 0 is in the interval, so there's a chance that the two groups could be equal to one another. So I'm going to zoom out so we can see all of this together. And then one more comment. This difference shows that boys are going to pick Superman more than girls between 4.65% and 15.35% more than the girls will. And that is the confidence interval for the difference of two